Hello, everyone. Welcome back for yet another video mechanicsgram here from the Central Region. This is our second video mechanicsgram of the 2022 season. We're excited to share it with you. We're in our second part of a three-part series here right now on the concept of taking advantage of the routine plays. If you remember, our first video mechanicsgram of 2022 focused on probably the most important fundamental, and that's proper use of eyes. And today we'll go to a second fundamental that's probably just below that proper use of eyes, and that's chest to ball. And you'll note that as we go through these things here today and in this video, that the two are very well connected. They're definitely different, but chest to ball and proper use of eyes, two really interconnected concepts that allow us to do our job effectively on the diamond. So we're excited then here to get to part two of taking advantage of the routine plays. That's on chest to ball here. As we continue then on this whole idea of taking advantage of routine plays to build back fundamentals that we may have otherwise been lacking as a result of inconsistent time on the diamond the last 2 years due to the pandemic. So let's go ahead and jump right in here to chest to ball and kind of talk about what exactly it is, why is it so important, and some other things here, and of course some video examples here as well. Let's talk here a little bit about chest to ball and what exactly it means. To define it very simply, it's literally just keeping our chest open to the ball. And why do we want to keep our chest open to the ball? Because this then is what allows us to allow the ball to turn and take the umpire to the play. So if we stay closed off to the ball, we try and see it over our shoulder, we may not necessarily allow then that baseball or that softball to take us then to the appropriate spot. So this then chest to ball is just allowing the ball to turn and take the umpire then to the developing play. The other thing here with chest to ball is that we want to make sure our chest is open to the ball. In the next slide, for example, we'll talk about taking snapshots as if our chest was the camera, if you will here. The umpire's chest should always be open to the ball, allowing then the ball to dictate our approach to and movement to developing play. So if you've ever seen an umpire that seems to always be in the right spot on time and things like that, it's not because they guessed right. It's not because they anticipated. It's because they kept their chest open to the ball and then allowed that ball, while chest was remaining open to it, to take them to the play. So this is a big fundamental because it keeps us away from over anticipating, and then allows us then to properly kind of read the play to allow then the ball to dictate our movements as we approach developing plays. Now, obviously, chest to ball is pretty important. We already talked about how it and proper use of eyes are interconnected, because obviously our chest and our eyes really on the same plane of the body, right? So we want to make sure that the two then can operate together. So why is it so important? Well, one of those reasons is because it allows us to use our eyes properly, but in doing so then, remaining chest to ball allows umpires to see, that's proper use of eyes, and respond to all critical parts of the developing play. So that's all proper use of eyes. Now, we've probably all heard this phrase, watch the ball and then glance for touches. That's exactly what we want to do. So whether we're pivoting in from the A position on a double, or if we're pivoting in from B, C, whatever the case may be, we want to make sure we keep the chest open to the ball and we see the ball, and then glance for touches and glance for other critical information that we're talking about as well. So our use of eyes, proper use of eyes, which we talked about in our first video mechanicsgram of 2022, is all dependent on our ability to keep our chest open to the ball. Also consider here that chest to ball is so important because doing so allows the ball, as we mentioned in the previous slide, to take umpires to the play. And as we've all often seen those umpires who just have a knack for being in the right place at the right time, it's because they're really good at keeping chest to ball as a fundamental. This is what allows us to arrive at the right time, at the right place, and ultimately in the right position. So obviously here, as we talk about chest to ball, very important, just like proper use of eyes. Now, I mentioned this in the concept of the previous slide, and that's snapshot theory. And the idea here is that our chest is and our eyes connected here. That's what's responsible for taking snapshots or pictures of the field as things start to come into place. So the theory here in terms of snapshot theory is that we want to take snapshots of the field, especially when players are in decision-making mode. Now, I stole this from a good friend of Little League, Brian DeBrouwer, and Brian stole it from one of his evaluators when he was in the minor leagues. But really all this is doing is making sure that we see the ball and our chest is open to the ball to allow us to get to where we need to be, but at the same time that we are going to be able to process and see all critical information of the play. And this takes us then back to the idea of watching the ball and glancing for touches. Now, not only should we watch the ball and glance for touches, but we should also glance for a little bit more about this critical information, as we talked about with our eyes last time in our video mechanicsgram. So obviously runners touching the base is one thing that we want to glance for with our proper use of eyes. We want to make sure that runner is not obstructed as he or she comes around a base. I want to make sure that there's no interference whatsoever there with the coaches or anything else that may happen. And we want to be able to read our partners. We made that point last week when we took a look at Brian DeBrouwer's U2 incident there when he did a really good job of being featured on Close Call Sports' April Call of the Month there, reading the fly ball and then positioning himself in the wedge at second base. So again, chest to ball is so important because it allows us to use our eyes properly, requires us to take snapshots of critical information, and in that way, we're able to respond to plays, kind of get ahead of where we need to be, allowing the ball to take us to those places. And then this is ultimately one of our most important fundamentals because it allows us then to use our eyes properly. Now, like always, we've got a couple of videos here to go ahead and break down this idea. And I think we'll see in a variety of these clips then, not only chest to ball defined, but we'll also then get to see what exactly kind of gives us the necessary pieces of it, why exactly this is so important. So TJ, I'll let you go ahead and hit us with then these clips.
All right, we'll go ahead and get rolling here on some of these clips for chest to ball. Got to play over here and I need to click in. There we go. As we can see here, we've got this umpire focused, checking the touch here at first base. But as we can see, the ball is behind him, going to second base. This umpire has no idea where this play is happening. We've got a potential back pick, and I mean this happens over the court. Like this play right here happens on the course of about 2.5 seconds. And as you can see, the rest of that clip, that fielder could potentially make a back pick into first base. I don't know about you, myself. I know Stu. We're not making it from this position down here in a matter of 2 seconds to be able to read a play. So again, just remaining chest to ball. What we would like to see here, a ball to the right fielder. We'd like to see this umpire stay in foul territory, open himself up, remain chest to ball, and use those eyes properly. We're going to be observing the touch. Stu just talked about, snapshot, decision-making mode, and being able to see, am I going to have a back pick into first base? Am I going to have an attempt at maybe an F9, F3 put out type situation? There's a lot of things that could go on here, and we need to be ready for it and cognizant of. So again, also, I mean, not to mention that I would consider a trouble ball. Would consider, using good judgment and potentially going out, or at the very least, kind of given that scissored stance to be able to make a judgment call on catch, no catch here. But again, completely oblivious to what's going on behind this umpire. Again, just opening yourself up and remaining chest to ball. Again, it's going to allow you to see and respond to all of those different types of situations that can happen on any given play. So we've got a play here that we're watching, specifically U3 here. The ball has gone behind him. We could have ball out of play. There's lots of different things. Again, another situation where we want to make sure that we're getting ourselves down here in the nature of the close to the bag, opening ourselves up, and being able to get eyes on the baseball so that way we can see what's going on. Again, no idea what's happening behind him. Okay, and then same game, same umpire. This is a different play. So we've got a pick off down to third base. I don't know where his eyes are definitely looking this direction. And you could argue, a potential for obstruction here. And he's kind of sees the touch, but he's already looking away. But again, we've got a ball down the left field line. We've got this umpire. This is the umpire we're focusing on again. Third base umpire, just kind of walking. Does eventually get to maybe a position we would like to see, but has no idea where the ball is. And as you can kind of see here, this throw kind of goes a little bit wild, and this umpire has to end up ducking. No idea that he's about to potentially get hit, with the exception of the third baseman, coming over to jump and save him. If that third baseman doesn't go after that ball, there's a high probability that umpire takes one to the side of the head. We need to make sure that we're being aware of our surroundings, opening ourselves up, again, seeing and responding. We need to watch the ball and then glance back for those decision-making things that happen, run around the base, looking for obstruction, as Stu mentioned, potential interference and things of that nature.
One thing I'll also add to this before we get to the next clip is that I think we can see how when we don't use chest to ball, how close we get. I'm sorry, how bad our positioning ends up, right? Because we have no idea what our read needs to be. So chest to ball allows us to use our eyes properly and then allows us to position effectively because we're going to let the ball take us to the play. Now, TJ, if you go back, I know we focused on you three a lot in this clip. This is a 6-umpire system. If we take a look at the umpire down the left field line, he actually does a really good job at chest to ball, right? He gets out of the way. The fielder allows freedom of movement here. As we take a look at him back on the screen, right there he is. He's chest to ball. He's kind of pivoted and made sure that he's chest to ball, and he is going to be in no way, shape, or form in the way of any continuing action there by the left fielder, whether it be a throw to second base, throw to third base, whatever the case may be. Allowing us to be in chest to ball in this case not only gets us to a really good position, but also allows us to afford freedom of movement to the fielders, which is really important as well.
All right, here, the focus here is this kind of hard. We'll zoom in just a second, but our focus here is on our field umpire. Coming in, we have R1. So we've got to play at second base here, remaining chest to ball, keeping the entire field open and in front of them. Got to play going into second base, and just a really nice, rotation of that torso. I love this clip because it just shows just how true the chest to ball is remaining here, and how this is what we would call a routine play, and definitely taking advantage of that and using that. You can see that swing there, chest to ball, and then that R1, no play happened at second base, so R1 has actually started to head towards third, which in a 2-man system, this would be a 2-umpire system. This would be a home plate umpire's call at third base. And we love to see here that even though it's no longer this umpire's call at third base, still practicing chest to ball to be able to provide useful information in case our partner were to need it over at third base. Again, a similar situation. We have R2 here with an umpire in C position. This is a 2-umpire system. Hustling in to get as close to the play as you can, as you're able to afford to be able to get yourself set and see the play, keeping the entire field in front of you, remaining chest to ball, and making that call. And then again, another purposed turn towards third base to be able to see that happen. So again, chest to ball is important to make sure that we're able to watch things happen, to be able to see and respond to everything that's happening on the field. Again, a couple key takeaways is find the ball, watch the ball, observe your touches. I think so many times we get focused on, I gotta look for everything else. Whereas if while those touches are important, yes, if we don't know where the ball is, we don't know where the play is going to be taking us. So we need to help ourselves out as much as we can to be able to try and get ahead of some of those plays as much as possible.
Absolutely. And, there are also a bunch of times here where we can struggle to remain chest to ball. So as we do our evaluations with umpires, as we kind of look at film, and as we talk to other umpire evaluators as well, we kind of think about, all right, well, what stands in the way oftentimes of umpires remaining chest to ball? And there's a couple situations here that we find most frequently result in umpires failing to remain chest to ball. Infield ground balls would be one of them. We're going to get to see a clip of that here in just a second. Pass balls can be really, really challenging for us. And then anytime the ball and the umpire are moving. So for example, in those last 2 clips that DJ would have shown us, right? The umpire was trying to move into position. The ball could have gone anywhere. That's why we keep our chest to ball. And if you remember snapshot theory, I think those 2 clips there, that the last 2 clips that DJ showed us of the umpires working from the B and the C positions where they had to play it first and then turn. DJ talked about that torso movement. That's essentially what allows us to take those snapshots. But nonetheless, here, 3 major scenarios in which we found umpires struggle the most with remaining chest to ball, just because, we kind of over anticipate potentially where the ball may be. And remember, we want to stay open to the ball while we're affording freedom of movement to the fielders. And that's going to be a concept that's going to be really important, particularly in all 3 of these situations.
Absolutely. We got a couple more video clips for sure. Here we go. So again, we'll let this one play through. I'm actually just going to take it back. So we've got a nice little slow-mo replay here. So I've got that play up the infield. And as you can see, we have a ball being tossed to second base for a play at second. That umpire that what we would like to see here is to open up and follow with the ball. So potentially maybe one forward step in with your left foot and kind of turning with the ball. And as that shortstop fields that ball, some crossover steps towards the cutout, essentially, to be able to see the transfer. We're firm and secure possession, touching the bag, all of those different things, using our eyes properly. Once we have firm and secure possession and we got a throw being fired off to first base, then we can signal our out call. We're not counting to 1 or 2 or 3. We talked about proper use of eyes a little bit last week. But again, we'd love to see, the opposite of a drop step, essentially. We'd love to see that forward step come through, rotate our entire body, and then eventually start taking crossover steps towards second base, towards the cutout here, to be able to see. As you can see here, we have ball in glove, foot on bag, and umpire eyes nowhere near. The umpire begins to look at the play right there, and the fielder's foot is already off the bag, and the ball is nearly in flight at that point. So again, just making sure that it can be a little tricky when you're getting into that situation here, as that ball's coming right at you. But again, this is that thing where we talk about reacting versus responding. When we're in the middle infield, we got to be ready for a ball to come at us. It's understanding what your next steps are and making sure that you're responding to the play that's given to you, not reacting to the play that's given to you. Again, we want to open ourselves up, follow that baseball with our entire body, crossover steps over to the middle infield, see that play, confirm that firm and secure possession, and then make your out call there at second base. Here we go. This is going to be a pass ball scenario. Again, as we can see here, this umpire, this is a pass ball. The ball is behind the plate. Umpire has no idea where the play is right now, no idea where the baseball is. And as you can see there, the baseball comes in, and the baseball hits the umpire in the left arm. I think that, there's my guess on this specific play, there's been a lot of education and a lot of work on the wedge and wedge theory. And while wedge theory is very exciting, and we want to find our play and get ourselves into the window to be able to see these calls, we can't make a call if we don't know where the ball is. So again, I think this is probably a scenario of reacting. Might have a play in the wedge. I might have a play in the wedge, and then you become the part of the play. And that's obviously not our goal at all. So again, this umpire, we would love to see opening the gate, finding the baseball, and then allowing yourself the fielder's freedom of movement to receive a ball or to make a play. I promise that wedge you'll be able to find the window when that play gets there. It happens fast, but that again, being ready and understanding what could potentially happen on each play, and then allowing yourself to respond instead of react. And I think we have a really good example of that here on this next clip of the umpire again. One more clip. So this umpire affords the freedom of movement, opens the gate, which is a good thing, backs away, but again, doesn't know where the baseball is. The baseball is behind him. Anything could happen. But this is the clip I was referring to. We've got the umpire here. First step, open the gate. Second step, we have the chest open. We've already glanced and looked at where the catcher is. We're glancing one more time. We see the pitcher coming in, and we have a potential play at the plate. And as you can see, closes the gap. This is part of initial starting position and making sure that we remain close to point of plate, close to potential plays, all of those little things. We call them fundamentals for a reason. Those fundamentals, they make a huge impact at the conclusion of the play. So again, making sure, and then right there, we talk about the window. There's no better angle. This umpire has the best angle of this play out of everybody, including every camera in the entire stadium here. We've got no ball, no call. So again, just making sure that you're taking advantage of those things. That previous clip where the umpire did afford freedom of movement but doesn't open chest to ball, there's not going to be a play there, but that would be what we would consider routine. Open yourself up, put the chest to the ball, and take advantage of that stuff so that way you can be aware of what's happening.
DJ, to your point in that last clip with the umpire who was able to get into the wedge, remember when we think back to, why this is so important, why chest to ball is so important. Remember, it is what allows us then to see and read things so that we end up at the right place at the right time and in the best position possible. And that's exactly what happens here, right? Affords freedom of movement, chest to ball, and then he's able to allow the ball to dictate his movements, which puts him in the best position possible. That's why chest to ball is so important. Your breakdown was spot on.
So pass balls, obviously, a couple of those clips were pass balls, but this is a really, really good example here of an umpire practicing, in my opinion, responding versus reacting first, while applying chest to ball theory and snapshot theory all at the same time. So this play, we've got a pass ball. It's going to go this direction with this play. I'm going to let it play through here one time and we'll take it back. So I just think this clip is really underrated in a lot of the lessons that it can teach us. So we've got a pass ball, opening the gate, reading that fielder, a nice large open the gate, I might add, to afford that freedom of movement. This umpire is doing everything right at this point. And there are times where we do everything right and the baseball can still kind of mess it up for us. So even though this umpire has opened the gate, done everything, afforded the freedom of movement, there's now a potential play at third base. And so does that umpire have to close the chest for a second? Yes, he does. But this just goes to show, as part of that snapshot theory piece, understanding your situation, your situational awareness. Snapshot theory, while it does apply to the play that's happening, it also applies to pre-play. One thing that I learned from my umpire in chief, Don Mason, is take a second and look where your outfielders are before a pitch. That might help you whether or not you need to go out on a trouble ball. And just those little things, go a long way. So here we understand that we have a play where we have a runner on second base here. We see a pass ball. So as an umpire, we're aware that there could be a potential play at third base. This umpire, again, is doing everything right, staying chest to ball, and then realizes gonna have a play at third base. Takes a quick step, closes himself, but the key here is he's aware of where the baseball is. He's aware of where the catcher is, and now he needs to afford a different lane of movement for this catcher. Keeps it controlled movement, not panicked movement, nothing crazy, nothing saying, I don't know what's going on, completely aware of everything that's happening around him. And this is my perfect definition of responding versus reacting. Now there's no throw, which is great. That's awesome. But again, situational awareness or snapshot theory, being aware of what's happening around you. Again, taking it, those fundamentals, opening the gate. That's something you learn at your very first Little League camp that you ever go to. Open the gate. And then chest the ball, getting out of the way, affording that freedom of movement, and keeping your head on a swivel. We've watched the ball. Now we're glancing for additional information at that point. So, again, while this clip is literally maybe 8 seconds long, I think it's got so much for us to learn from. Again, see and respond, react versus respond. There's a lot to take in here. And there we go. And so there is one exception to the rule, Stu, if you want to touch on it real quick, and we have one more round of clips to go through.
Yeah, and DJ kind of hinted at this in the last couple of clips we've seen. The exception to the rule here for us is when we have to afford freedom of movement of the fielders. And oftentimes where this is not only on pass balls, as we've seen in the last couple of clips, but particularly on foul pop-ups, because we want to allow that fielder, the catcher in front of us in most cases, to have a clear lane, not only to go field and attempt the play on the batted ball, or to go ahead and get the ball to the screen, but then to make the next play as well. So the exception to the rule where we don't necessarily keep our chest to the ball is anything to the screen behind us, because our first priority is freedom of movement of the fielder. And that requires then us sometimes to stay closed, or doesn't necessarily allow us to be chest to ball, as we saw in the previous clip that DJ went ahead and broke down. So anytime the ball's behind us, pass balls, but even more specifically, foul pop-ups, that's where chest to ball doesn't apply initially. because we have to afford freedom of the movement first is the priority, and then we can go ahead and get chest to ball. DJ, you can go ahead and have at the clips.
For sure. So here we've got just a quick bunt, and it's a bunt that's going straight up. Maybe. There we go. Sorry about that. We got a bunt that's going straight up, and the umpire here does a pretty good job of understanding what's happening. Goes and looks for the ball, and then looks back at the fielder and looks to confirm that firm and secure possession on that catch. The only thing there is you can kind of see his head going up. What I would challenge you is, and it will take reps, it will take physical reps, is if you see the ball come off the bat and you know it's going high, or maybe you flinch and you blink, but you hear the sound and you know that ball's going up. You got coaches or fans yelling up. Look at the catcher. Let the catcher tell you what to do. Open the gate based on where the catcher's going, and then just read off the catcher. You could almost say chest to catcher versus, in this specific situation, this exception to the rule. I think after that initial glance up, this umpire does a good job, mask off, tracking backwards. But the only thing, if I want to be picky, I would say here, instead of actual steps, I would say potential crossover steps if you're able to do some crossover steps. But does a good job tracking and following this catcher back towards the screen. As you get to higher levels of baseball, whether that's regional World Series play or even high school or beyond, you might have to worry about screens and stuff like that. So if that ball interacts with that screen before it gets with the catcher, we have things we have to look at. But that initial second or 2 seconds, every decision that we make has to revolve around the catcher and affording that catcher that freedom of movement. Similar situation with pass balls and stuff like that, as we saw in the previous clip. But again, with foul pop-ups or bunt pop-ups or stuff like that, I can't stress enough, if you can get yourself to respond and watch what happens instead of react, if you just respond, allow your catcher that opportunity to move, and then you echo that movement and follow that movement, and then establish the rest of your fundamentals, that will make life a lot easier. So here's an example of a pass ball, which we had in our previous slides. But again, opening the gate, just really good work here. Opening the gate, mask off. The only thing is, and maybe it's in the peripheral vision, I don't really see it in head movement, but just making sure you're aware of where the baseball is. You're aware of where the fielders are, but making sure you're aware of where the baseball is. So I think that obviously we're aware the catcher is going behind us off to the left, but it definitely seemed to be focusing in on the runner here and what's going to happen. And then the ball comes into the play, and then you all have everything. And that's what some may say could blow up on you, something like that. You want to make sure that you're able to track that baseball coming into the play, and then looking ahead of it just slightly instead of waiting for it all to come at you at the same time.
One other thing on this one too, GJ, remember chest to ball is a priority, right? Because chest to ball allows us not only get in the right spot, because that umpire ended up in the wedge, but it's what allows us to use our eyes properly. And that's what this umpire does a really good job of. Affords freedom of movement by opening the gate. Catcher has a clear path to go retrieve the ball and a clear path to throw it. So priority of movement is the first priority. Then we get chest to ball, and then we can try and find whatever else we can. And because we execute those fundamentals, now we look like an all-star on this really close play. And as the play happens, kind of revert back to last week, we see proper use of eyes there by the umpire to confirm firm and secure possession before banging the out call right there. So really good job to kind of connect chest to ball with proper use of eyes, and how chest to ball is so important to allow us to do so many other things the right way. And that's what puts us in the best spot possible to get on the highlight reel.
Absolutely. And then this one of these last clips here, again, so that we got another foul pop-up situation here. And as you can see where this umpire goes to look first, tried to fire the ball straight up, has no idea where the catcher's going. and we take a spill. So again, affording freedom of movement is the key there. Again, in this situation, ball up. If we just stop, we respond, and we read the catcher. Okay, catch, because catcher's got to stand up. Catcher, if we're looking at the catcher here, we're able to open our gate and allow him to get back there and make that call and make that catch. Thankfully in this situation, this catcher was able to make his play, and we didn't necessarily impact the outcome of it too much. But again, right here, this is a good view to be able to see the importance of, it's not our job to find the baseball in these first initial seconds. It's our job to provide the catcher the freedom of movement to be able to get to the spot that the catcher needs to make to make the play. Again, this is that's one of those critical parts to the play. We want to make sure that we're giving that catcher the ability to make that play, and we're using chest the ball to open the gate, back ourselves up, allow that catcher afford him the freedom of movement to do those things, and then we're responding rather than reacting to the play as a whole.
DJ touched on a lot of things. And as we take a look at those clips, I think we figure out the importance of a chest to ball. And the one thing here about it, and I know it's a lot to take in, and what we've seen is that staying chest to ball allows us to use our eyes properly. It allows us to get the right spot, and it allows us to execute the wedge. But how do we practice all that so that when things are close, like we saw in several of these clips, whether it be at the regional or World Series, we look like $1 million. Well, how do we practice chest to ball? Well, think about what exactly the mantra is, if you will, of this three-part series, and that's to take advantage of the routine plays. So whether you need it or not, essentially based upon the innocuousness of the play or whatever it is, that shouldn't stop us from building the fundamentals necessary to look great when situations are really, really tough. So how do we practice chest to ball? How do we get better at chest to ball? Just need more reps. And in order to get those reps, we not only have to work games, but even more importantly, when we work those games, we've got to make sure that we take advantage of the routine plays. And whether the score is 2-1 in the bottom of the sixth or 20-3 in the top of the second, we want to take advantage of the routine plays. That way we're building back those fundamentals necessary to be successful and be in the right spot to look like $1 million to get on the highlight reel here in our film. And that'll go ahead and wrap things up here for this building block and this second piece of the Take Advantage of Routine Plays series on chest to ball. We've got one more part, and that'll be talked about next week at our next video mechanicsgram. That'll be then on the importance of staying on the line, literally straddling the line for fair foul. So we'll get ready to talk about that as the final part then of this series, this trilogy, if you will, of taking advantage of the routine plays. For DJ Rose and myself, Stu Hartenstein, thanks for joining us. We'll be back next week then for our next video mechanicsgram on taking advantage of the routine plays, staying on the line for fair foul. Thanks for being here.